Hey everyone, welcome back to Joy at Work. It's April 29th, 2022. My goodness, the month of April is almost over. The Gunners are back to their winning ways. I'm optimistic. Maybe a top four finish is truly in the works. Well, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're safe. And let's dive into our topic of today. Today, we're going to be talking about psychological safety and joy at work. And I get a lot of questions about this in my professional and personal life. And if you're not familiar with psychological safety, it's this idea that as an individual, I feel safe to express my thoughts. I feel safe about being vulnerable because I do not anticipate or expect any kind of punishment or negative consequences, maybe from challenging something that's been said or for sharing something about how I feel. And, psychological safety is something that's very important in groups that accomplish a lot. I recently read an article by Amy Edmondson when she was challenging this idea that psychological safety is a hygiene factor, it's a baseline factor. Hygiene factors are baseline foundational things that may not lead to competitive advantage, but matter if you're going to be viable in any form. People talk about pay as an example of a hygiene factor. People want to get paid fairly so they can stay around. If you don't pay people fairly, they'll leave. But pay itself doesn't, in many cases, like constitute or guarantee what performance is going to look like. So her argument, which I think I agree with, is that psychological safety makes it different because in an org where there's candor, where people can express how they're feeling, then there's often the likelihood that good ideas will become great ideas and poor ideas will get killed because people can express how they're feeling. Now, where this gets interesting is societally, we often feel uncomfortable telling people with more authority or more power how we feel about a thing. This is something that many of us learn from an early age in the house. We're talking to our parents. If we want to challenge something that they say, we might be reprimanded when we go to school. There's this authority figure called the teacher who we can't challenge. University, all walks of life. So by the time we show up in the workplace, we don't know how to even disagree with our superiors, with our bosses. Many of us find it extremely uncomfortable and difficult. In fact, it causes a lot of anxiety in us when we feel like we need to say something to somebody that's superior or higher up the corporate ladder. And so, as a result of that, we don't say anything. It is also true that some of us say things and we get slapped on the wrist for saying something, right? And this is what psychological safety itself is all about, like having the ability to express how we feel in the right way. Of course, you don't want to be abusive or anything like that, and not feeling that there'll be negative consequences. Now, this doesn't mean that you say something and you're not challenged. I've had people in the past feel like saying something or psychological safe environment means they could say something to a boss or superior or even a peer, and that person just had to sit quiet and listen and not challenge back or not even engage in some form of a debate. That's also wrong. And so if you have a boss and you throw an idea at them and they challenge that idea in a respectful way, you shouldn't feel like you're being punished. You should feel like this is what healthy back and forth looks like. And so that's very important. So when it comes to psychological safety, you need to ask yourself, why do I feel unsafe? Do I feel unsafe because I've said something and I was punished for it or there were negative consequences? Or do I feel unsafe because I've carried this baggage, if you will, my entire life? I don't feel comfortable saying things to authority. I don't feel comfortable expressing different opinions because all my life I've been told, it's been reinforced in me that when my superiors say something, I just got to listen and go with it. If that's your experience, if that's your background, and you want to contribute to psychological safety and you want to actually practice psychological safety, you need to start opening your mouth and saying things. And like I've said before in other videos, the only way we get better at things is by doing them. So the first time you say something, you'll get the courage to say something next time. Now, if you say something and you put it in the best way you can and it so comes back to you in a negative form, then that's a sign that you're not in a psychologically safe environment, and then you have a decision to make. Do I want to stay in that environment or do I want to go somewhere else? And I can tell you that if you decide to stay in an environment that's not psychologically safe most of the time, it'll be very difficult to experience joy at work. So if joy at work is something you want to experience, you need to think about whether you want to stay in that place or not. Um, it's also very important to remember that people are human as well. And so sometimes people snap and they might say the wrong thing in response. And you need to look at responses over time. Is this an exception? Was this maybe my boss or peer having a bad day? Or is their response consistent and repetitive and always punitive? Again, if it's always punitive, then that place is probably not a safe place. You also need to look at how you respond to people as well. Do you roll your eyes when they say something, or do you snap back? We all have a role to play in helping our environments be psychologically safe. So if you're looking for joy at work, one of the things you need to consider is this idea of psychological safety and how you participate and contribute to it. All right, hope this was helpful. See you next time. Bye.